If you find this video helpful, give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, so that you can be notified whenever we upload a video. Today we are going to be talking about Linux backups. So, how do you back up a Linux system anyway? It is not a simple answer. While in Windows, there is backup and restore, and Mac OS has Time Machine, there is no program that people agree on is the #1 backup manager. And that is a problem for several reasons. First, it makes it harder for novices to back up their systems. Second, it leaves the door open for a dozen niche backup programs to take the center stage. However, now you have to choose between them. Third, it makes it difficult to find a backup program that has all features that their commercial Windows counterparts have: incremental backups, cloud backups, encrypted backups, and so on. Since the waters are very muddy here, we recommend you watch the entire video, so you can evaluate which backup program is best for you. First, we will cover the features a backup program should have. Then, we will present a list of Linux software that is used for backing up servers and desktops. Alright, so having the ability to select the files and folders you want to back up is obviously very important and reasonable, so why is it on this list? Well, because there are programs that don't offer you a choice and just back up everything. Not that this is necessarily bad, but this should be your choice. After all, it is your box we are trying to back up. Incremental backups are when you make one large backup once, and then the next couple of backups only store changes made to files and folders from the time you created the last backup. This includes renaming, adding and removing folders and files, and editing the contents of files. These kind of backups save a lot of space, because they only store one full backup. The next few backups will be very small, unless you have modified a ton of files and folders and put a lot of content in them. However, you need to keep all of these backups handy, because if you lose even one of them, your entire backup for today will be destroyed. And while it's possible that only a recent incremental is wiped out, allowing you to revert to an older backup instead, that is very inconvenient. Just ask anyone who has lost data before. If you are changing a lot of data between backups, then interval backups make no sense for you. Just stick with traditional full backups. The next thing you need to consider is the backup schedule. It is very important that your backup software allows you to create a schedule for automatically backing up your data. I shouldn't have to tell you that it's highly annoying to remember to back up the server every Sunday. It's easy to forget, and I wouldn't blame you if you did. Make sure the backup software allows you to configure the backup interval in days, and hours, and minutes if you want that much control. Having multiple backup locations is extremely important to lower the risk of losing your servers in a disaster, so you need to make sure you have more than one hard disk to store the archived data on. Cloud storage is also an option to look into if you are comfortable with that. Encrypting your backups is not very important unless you are backing up to a not-so-secure location like the cloud, where anybody with a warrant or your password can get their hands dirty and see all your darkest secrets. If you do go that route though, make sure your software can encrypt the backups using AES-256, which is the strongest type of encryption available right now. Restoring individual files might not sound like a big deal, but it suddenly becomes one when you permanently delete files by accident, or on purpose, and then you regret making that decision. Having a backup program that can restore individual files and folders will save you from individual heartache. So this leads us to the second part of this video, which is comparing various backup services. We're going to take a look at local and cloud backup options, and evaluate its ease of use, and options. Make sure you have an external hard disk, USB flash drive, or cloud storage account to store your backups in. It is not safe to store your backups on the same hard disk as the data that was backed up, because you're risking losing both your backup and the original data. Even if you don't want one of these things already, go do some shopping and compare prices of these mediums of data storage. rsync is perhaps the oldest tool on this list. This is not even a proper backup tool, it is a command line program that allows you to send files from one operating system to another. However, as with most other command line tools, it is very hard to learn, because there is no graphical user interface, or GUI for short. rsync is pretty good at backing up to multiple locations and choosing the files and folders you want to back up, but it is not efficient when you have to do this many times. That's because you have to run rsync over and over again using different parameters. Also, it does not support encryption or incremental backups, and the only way you can schedule a backup is by using another command line program called cron. But cron is also quite convoluted, so I recommend skipping this option entirely and viewing the next software on our list. DejaDup is backup software written by the GNOME developers. It has a GUI, and uses a command line tool called duplicity to perform the actual backup. This means you don't have to run any nasty command line programs by hand, unless you are on a server. But even then, duplicity makes it much easier to perform a backup than rsync ever can. Under the hood, duplicity uses the rsync library to network with other computers, but you yourself never actually talk to rsync. As a result, it supports your local disks and many different cloud providers, which is fantastic. DejaDup also supports incremental backups, encryption, and excluding files and folders from the backup. It also supports schedules, but these only run while you're logged in. This is not really a problem if you are backing up user data though, but if you are a system administrator, you should be placing the duplicity command line tool in your scripts. Timeshift is a fairly recent creation, which specializes in backing up Linux system settings. Does that sound like an oxymoron to you? Well, they have made it simple. Although there are dozens of Linux distributions, all with their own configuration file styles, at the end of the day, most of these distros use the same services, so they have a common configuration format that most people can get used to. For example, systemd services, web server configurations, network configurations, firewall configurations, and others are all reasonably predictable because they use the same set of software. This makes it ridiculously simple to back up configuration and systemd data. It also takes the list of binaries and libraries that are on your Linux system, and creates one giant snapshot containing all of them, as well as the configuration data, and other necessary resources that the binaries depend on, such as multimedia and translations. That means, it can work with any repository. But it also means, it can't do incremental backups, or exclude any files or folders from the backup. Timeshift cannot encrypt its own backups, but what it can do is back up encrypted Linux systems properly. Also, only local volumes are supported as backup locations, as the volume must be formatted before it can store any Timeshift snapshots. Do not run Timeshift inside any kind of container such as Docker or LXC, because that is not supported. It is recommended to use Timeshift along with a user data backup program such as DejaDup, and not by itself. Clonezilla is a special tool that is not really used to back up files. Instead, it backups the entire volume, and creates an image of it in some other storage location. That means, it backs up everything. However, Clonezilla is not a program you can install. You have to put it on a DVD or a USB drive and then boot your computer to that device in order to access it. It has a basic GUI from the 90s, but it should not be a problem to use if you are familiar with using the keyboard. This is not really a program designed for normal users. It is intended for system administrators and other more advanced users. Back in Time is another user-friendly backup tool on this list. It allows you to choose which files you want to back up, and supports local disks as well as other servers running SSH, as well as encryption, but it has some exclamation marks. It does not support incremental backups though, but you can schedule your backups. So which tool do I recommend? Certainly, it has to be DejaDup, because it supports so many destinations, and ticks all the boxes, while also being very simple to use. A close alternative is Back in Time. And that's without even talking about all the other backup tools I left out. So is backing up stuff on Linux difficult? Not really. But it is certainly a work in progress. I hope someone can build on DejaDup and make the ultimate backup tool that is directly integrated in Linux distributions as a configurable service, in the various control panels and settings of the desktop environments. Thanks for watching this video. Do you have a favorite backup software for Linux? Let us know in the comments. See you in the next video.